Hurricane Beryl is strengthening in the Atlantic on this July morning. I'm Mike Nasa with the latest on Hurricane Beryl. As we take a look out there right now, you can see there's the Lesser Antilles of the Caribbean Sea, Puerto Rico, and there on the right side of your screen is our very small but strengthening Category 1 Hurricane Beryl, the first hurricane of the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season. As you can see, very dry, stable, unfavorable air, cooler than average sea surface temperatures. However, they're warm enough to support hurricane activity if you have a feature in good upper level conditions, which right now Beryl is, and being a small hurricane, Beryl is able to intensify up or down very quickly. It has strengthened this morning and is now a hurricane. Here's the latest on Hurricane Beryl as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time. It was at 10.6 north, 45.1 west. Winds were up to 75 miles an hour. The pressure getting down now to 995, estimated, of course. It's moving west at 14. And again, the forecast does have the hurricane strengthening at least to about 85, maybe 90 miles an hour. Could get a little stronger. It's not out of the realm of possibility this could become a Category 2 hurricane even. However, by Saturday night, Sunday morning, very high wind shear should begin to impact it. And since it is small, it is expected to weaken and then eventually dissipate as it enters the eastern Caribbean Sea. However, by Monday morning, it could still be a tropical storm coming through the leeward, perhaps even the windward islands down here. And that is why if you are in the Caribbean, you need to be on alert, as we have a hurricane in July headed in that general vicinity. Again, it's not just the winds potentially, we could have heavy rainfall. Hopefully Beryl will be a small storm when it moves through, but again, there's always the chance wind shear could actually increase the size of the thunderstorm activity around it. Here are the forecast models, and you can see some of them begin to take whatever's left of Beryl and eventually move it towards the Bahamas off the southeast coast of the U.S. Others keep it moving generally towards the western Caribbean Sea. Again, you don't know what these storms are going to do down the road. I mean, could it dissipate and then come back somehow further down the road closer to land? That's always a potential possibility. Right now, the thinking is that there won't be much left of it. However, if you are in Puerto Rico and Hispaniola and points westward, as you should do all hurricane season, you'll want to keep an eye on the system just in case something happens. Right now, the motion is pretty much straight west, and the model guidance is kind of clustered pretty tight towards the leeward islands there. So if you're in Martinique, Guadeloupe, perhaps down towards St. Lucia, you guys want to keep an eye on this as well for whatever moves through the islands come Monday. Here's a beautiful water vapor shot of the hurricane, and you can see the eye of the hurricane is right in there. It's tightly coiled up, very, very small. I mean, extremely small. This is one of the smallest hurricanes I remember tracking out in the central Atlantic, and the reason why it's been able to strengthen so much in light of the very, very high amounts of dry air out there is because it's so tiny. So if you were in the eye, this small region is where you'd get hurricane force winds out of the entire Atlantic Ocean. That's a pretty small area, but nevertheless it is a hurricane and it is strengthening. And this moist envelope around it should allow it to intensify for the next 12, 24, maybe 36 hours. So again, it's just a matter of how strong it gets, how quickly. But being a small storm, it could get pretty strong for a hurricane, at least a high-end Category 1. And so we're going to watch it because you don't want it to get too strong, because even if it weakens, then when it comes through the islands, we could still have some problems. There's the wind probabilities of tropical storm force winds, and you can see, unlike yesterday, we're now getting higher probabilities that some of the islands here may see tropical storm force winds, perhaps up towards 50, 60 miles an hour come Monday morning. And this is with the expectation that we have a stronger storm now, so even if it weakens, it'll still have decent wind speeds as it moves through the islands. Again, not yet in Puerto Rico or St. Croix or the northern islands, some of the probabilities there. Nonetheless, it's still a long way out. You got time to watch it. But begin to make your preparations for at least a stormy Sunday through Tuesday, with the potential of winds gusting, waves crashing, and some heavy rainfall in some areas. As I showed you yesterday, the wind shear values are very low. I mean, right now it's in a very favorable upper level environment, and that's all going to change as it heads into this shear vector in here, and that should allow the system to weaken very quickly, especially since it's a small core. You can see these jets here of 50 knots of wind shear, 40, 50 knots in some areas. That would be just devastating to a small storm like Beryl, and if it gets into that area where it's 20 to 30 knots of wind shear, that will no doubt induce weakening and hopefully dissipation by the Eastern Caribbean. But again, we didn't expect anything out of this wave, certainly not the first hurricane. I don't think anybody did even 2 or 3 days ago. If we would have said we had a strengthening hurricane in the central Atlantic, nobody would have believed you. So we'll continue to watch it. Again, right now it's just a Category 1 hurricane, but it is the first hurricane of the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season, Hurricane Beryl. And if you're in the islands of the Caribbean, the Lesser Antilles, begin to overlook your plans just in case some nasty weather heads your way by Monday. We'll stay tuned and check the latest here on Hurricane Beryl as the hours pass and hurricane season 2018 rolls along.